Good afternoon. You are attending hearings for the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City for Thursday, December 12th, 2013. If you're dissatisfied with our decision today and you have standing, you may request judicial review with the Circuit Court for Baltimore City. Any approvals we give today are preliminary and will require further documentation before our agency will release a license to you. And we are going to call at this time Peabody Heights Brewery, 401 East 30th Street. Also, just want to remind you at this time, go ahead and turn your cell phones to vibrate. And all decisions of the board shall be considered unanimous unless there is a dissent, and we'll identify the dissenting commissioner at that time. My name is Stephen Fogelman. This is Elizabeth Smith and Commissioner Harvey Jones to my left and right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
1 p.m. case, Jay Hollis, Albert III, Patrick Bell, and Stephen Dimzik, Peabody Heights Brewery, LLC, trading as Peabody Heights Brewery, 401 East 30th Street, Class D, beer license, application for a new brewery license under provisions of Article 2B, Section 2-2062I. Everybody testifying, please step forward, raise your right hand.
You swear or affirm the testimony is true that the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Barry. How are you, sir? All right, good afternoon.
Al Barry, planning consultant, land use consultant for the principals of the Peabody Heights Brewery, which are before you. We're also pleased, particularly, to be joined by the Community Law Center, Ms. Becky Witt, and Bonnie Besser of the Able Improvement Association. We're going to put before you on the record a memorandum of agreement that has been successfully completed and signed by the last signature this morning, and we'll talk about the details of that. But the agreement is between the brewery and two associations, the Charles Village Civic Association and the Able Improvement Association. I thought we might have somebody from Charles Village here as well, but they may show up later. As the board may realize, I think this is the second application for we'll call it a Class D license that was authorized by the state legislature. It went into effect this past July. That gave breweries in the state of Maryland the opportunity to add a tasting room open to the public for a sale of their beer alone, brewed on premise. We were not, as a brewery, involved in that legislation. We are the beneficiaries of it, and we understand that the board did approve a previous license, similar license that we're asking for down in the Hamden area. When we started, when we became aware back in July that the state legislature had authorized this, we immediately contacted the neighborhood associations, because our original approval for the zoning and the license for the brewery included a memorandum that restricted the sale, but did not allow retail sales, and it also had other restrictions on it as well. So as part of, before we even asked for any hearing before the board, we began negotiations with the two community associations to update that agreement. And from our standpoint, the brewery standpoint, we wanted to make it clear that we were not interested in having a full-fledged bar. We really, it's a brewery first. We can tell the board of how successful it's been in terms of capacity since it's been open almost a year now. But we really are a production manufacturing facility, and we do have a tasting room that we have some private events that have been authorized by the state, and we also have trade events for salesmen and bar owners and so forth to come in to taste the beverages. So we were not interested in a full-scale bar that would be open from 6 in the morning till 2 at night, and so I can go through the restrictions. But basically, it will be open 6 days a week from 5 o'clock in the evening until 9 p.m. at night. We wanted to be sure that we would not be open beyond that time. The neighborhood reaction to that was positive, as referenced in the agreement. Councilwoman Clark, I'm glad she and I talked this morning. I was going to add some concerns that she can now add for herself. But as the board may know, the previous state license allowed 12 events a year. Those events were included in our original license. They require a state date, one-day license or three-day license, depending on the size of the event. And we've had almost 8 or 9 so far since we've been open. But with this new license, we have the ability to have more events, and so a lot of our negotiation with the neighborhood had to do with the size of events and the frequency of the events. And also, we proposed, and it's in the agreement, to have a committee that would be made up of the neighborhood associations, the school, and the brewery, so that they would get notice of events prior to their being scheduled, and we could work out details such as parking. Valet parking is going to be provided for certain events, and we also have hours of limitation on those as well. So that's an overview of what we're proposing, and I can go through the agreement. We do have a signed copy for the board's records.
All right, can I hear from Ms. Witt at this time?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Witt, for the record, please.
My name is Becky Witt. I'm a staff attorney at Community Law Center representing the Able Improvement Association. In this case, I don't have a lot to add to what Mr. Berry has already talked about. I might have Bonnie just talk very briefly about the process involved in creating this MOU, because if you look through it, it's a lot longer than many MOUs and a lot more detailed. It's very specific to this specific establishment, and we spent a lot of time talking with the applicants and with community members and getting lots of feedback on it. So, Bonnie, do you just want to, is that okay if
Absolutely.
she just, talks briefly about that process? Or
Good afternoon. Bonnie Besser. I'm the president of the Able Improvement Association. The brewery first approached us in August about their desire to apply for this new liquor license that had been created by the state legislature. We went through a series of community meetings where there was a chance for information gathering and for the brewery to present their plans, and also in between those meetings, an open forum through email and phone calls for community members to voice any concerns that they may have to me and to our officers. And we worked with the Community Law Center to negotiate this memorandum of understanding to address specifically concerns about noise, parking, and just kind of general crowds and safety in the neighborhood, in addition to addressing the issue that the brewery is right across the street from an elementary middle school. And how could we make sure that there was no negative effect on the school. The school was also involved in the negotiation meetings. On November 6th, our general membership voted overwhelmingly to approve this memorandum of understanding and for the Able Improvement Association to enter into the memorandum of understanding.
Is this building located, there's a big building with a fenced-in area. Would that be the building?
30th and Barclay.
Yeah.
Still Beverage Capital Building.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. Your name, sir? Yep.
My name is Jay Hollis B. Albert III. I'm applicant.
All right, Mr. Berry, Mr. Albert is here. Is Mr. Bale here? Yes. All right. And Mr. Demchuk? Right. Okay, you're here. All right, what I'd ask that you do, now who are the applicants? All three. Yeah, Mr. Berry, if you could just go through with them what they understand, what they're signing, they're voluntarily asking the board to place license restrictions on the license, specifically the terms of this MOU.
Yes, if you would like, I can speak for them, but we were going to.
I want to hear from them.
Okay, so all three of you, gentlemen.
One at a time.
One at a, okay,
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Belli, we want you to state for the record that these restrictions that you've signed are voluntary on your part on behalf of the brewery, and you're entering into them, and that the board will add them as part of the license going forward, if it's approved. So please just state that.
I'm Patrick Bay. I understand what Al just stated.
All right, and Mr. Bay, specifically what the board is asking you is that you agree that what you agreed to in the document will become restrictions on your license. And you understand that you're voluntarily doing that.
I'm voluntarily doing that.
All right. Magnifique.
Thank
All right.
Hollis,
Yeah. Yes, I know it's voluntary restrictions on the license, and just so that the board knows, I've had 3 liquor licenses with Baltimore City before with no issues.
But never with an MOU, right?
Not with an MOU.
All right. Well, that's what we want to make
So
sure
the
it's
voluntary
very
restriction
clear.
is fine, yep.
Exactly. You understand that by signing this, you're asking us to treat these as restrictions on your
On
license.
the license,
All right.
correct.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Albert. Mr. Demchuk?
Yes, Stephen Demchuk, partner in Peabody Heights Brewery. I voluntarily signed the document and understood everything that I read within it.
And furthermore, you understand that you're requesting us to treat the terms of the memorandum of understanding as license restrictions placed on your license voluntarily at your request. That is correct. All right. Thank you, Mr. Demchuk. All right. That will please the board, and we will go ahead and enter. Hang on one second. We're going to enter the exhibit as the applicant's first exhibit. Is there any other testimony on behalf of the applicant at this time?
Not at this time. I do expect that Councilman Clark, and we've spoken this morning, will raise the relationship of this to the subsequent action required by the city zoning department and zoning board, and we're prepared to respond to that.
Okay.
Rather than, we'll let her present her.
Is there anyone else on behalf of the applicants at this time? All right. Then at this time, is there any other testimony to be considered?
Yes.
We need to swear you in, Councilwoman.
Yes, I wasn't sworn in. I'm sorry I was late. My
Swear or
apologies.
affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, I was at the, although I didn't participate in the negotiations, and I want to applaud Bonnie Besser for doing so as a volunteer leader of the Able Improvement Association, while she has a full-time job as a CEO of a nonprofit. Although I didn't, I was at the meeting where the neighborhood gathered in good numbers, goodly numbers, and along with the applicants, and approved this memorandum of understanding. I just really would like to put on the table here today that there still are outstanding zoning issues that go with this establishment. This is something new to the board, this license, and it's certainly new to the applicants as well as to me and to the neighborhood. This is an M1, Industrial 1 zone building property. And so a tavern, which this basically is, part of this is a tavern. I mean, it's open to the public, come and buy a beer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to go to the zoning board for some kind of ability to find how its use can fit in and approve it for a use and occupancy permit. The live entertainment is also subject to zoning. So your board, I believe, is fully aware of that. I just wanted to put on the record that once, if this license is approved, there still are, it can't be put into use until they complete the other part of this equation. Thank you
very much. All right, any questions for Councilwoman?
None.
All right, Councilwoman Clark, thank you very much. Any questions, commissioners?
None.
No?
Board's going to take a look at the file at this point. We determined that the Peabody Heights Brewery LLC is in good standing with the state as of December 11th, 2013. We further note the character references David Dombrowski, the Dombrowskis at East Lake Avenue, Mr. Barry, Witherspoon Road, Mr. Fred Burke, all registered voters, property owners within the city of Baltimore. Is there anything else?
We would, just to respond to Councilman Clark, we would acknowledge that there is a zoning process. This received zoning approval back in November 2011, and it was subject to the original MOU, and so since we have a new MOU, for that reason, as well as the land use issues, we're going to be treating this, and I think zoning will treat this new use as an accessory use to the brewery, but we acknowledge for the record that we have to begin that process once your decision is made.
All right, thank you very much. We do note a letter from Councilman Carl Stokes that's been received by the board today indicating that there's an MOU and they've shown, the brewery has shown a willingness to take great pride in the management of their venue and substantial capital investments in the property and decorum of the facility.
Mr. Barry, is this in Councilman Stokes' district? Or it's in
mine.
It's actually Flux, but it's.
Well, I have communicated with Councilman Stokes upon his inquiries.
All right, the board's just going to receive the letter as the agency's first exhibit. Is there anything else?
That's all.
All right, we're going to go off the record.
Oh. I guess he's got the whole thing. I wish he knew. The alley.
All right, we're going to go back on the record in our decision phase, December 12th, 2013. And this is J. Hollis Albert III, Patrick Bale, and Stephen Demchuk, Peabody Heights Brewery, LLC, trading as Peabody Heights Brewery, 401 East 30th Street. It's an application for a new brewery license under Article 2B, Section 2206 2I. Board wants to thank the applicants, the members of the Charles Village Civic Association and Able Improvement Association, and Ms. Besser, who is here today, as well as the Community Law Center and Mr. Barry for the very hard work they put in to what is a very comprehensive MOU and very restrictive MOU. The board appreciates that you've taken the time to work on all the details. They are certainly more developed and explored than you would get if we were up here trying to craft some kind of restrictions for you. You've agreed to these restrictions and agreed that these restrictions will become part of your license and basically act as voluntary license restrictions. Ms. Besser, the president, Bonnie Besser of the Able Improvement Association, indicated that her membership had worked very hard to craft this MOU and that it was overwhelmingly supported after great deliberation. The board further heard that this will be a 6-day operation, open only from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., as well as other restrictions. And that's all from the agreement between the liquor licensees, operators of 401 East 30th Street, Peabody Heights Brewery, LLC, 2900, Lock Raven, LLC, Able Improvement Association, Incorporated, and the Charles Village Civic Association, Incorporated's agreement of December 12th, 2013, which we've referred to as the applicant's first exhibit. We heard from Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, who wanted to make sure that the applicants were aware, and we'll go ahead and remind you at this time that anything we approve here today is obviously subject to zoning and other agencies. The board also received a letter from Councilman Carl Stokes in support of the applicant. Board has no problem, based on what we've seen here today, determining that there is public need and desire for the request, a de minimis impact on existing licensees, a potential uniqueness of products to be offered by your business, a de minimis impact on health, safety, welfare, and other issues in the neighborhood, including crime, traffic, parking, and convenience. So we'll go ahead and approve yet this second brewery license here in the city of Baltimore under the new legislation. We wish you the best of luck. Please understand that this MOU, this is your guidebook for the operation of that part of the facility. And again, we thank the Community Law Center and others for their help in this matter. Anything else? Thank you. We're off the record.